When this deceitful insurance company decides to pull the rug on a client that has gone through a very expensive procedure, thinking it was all going to be covered by that company, OP plays one of the biggest trump cards you're ever going to see, enacting some of the best revenge I've ever come across. Deny my employee claim and tell me if I don't like it, I can leave? I'll withdraw everything from your company and watch you disintegrate. I have a story that started before the COVID pandemic and just concluded a while back. I am a typical simple guy who just likes relaxing, and I was born with the proverbial silver spoon in my mouth. I am the black sheep of my family and a middle child to boot, double whammy. But I at least have a little brains and some luck, which I kind of use on a day-to-day basis. Due to my parents' connections, I managed to get into lucrative schools in my country, did my military service, and was promoted upwards to captain, and later on was shipped off to college out of country. I've never been too close with many people apart from my circle of friends, and I prefer it that way. After my college, I was employed in government. You guessed it, family connections again. And after a few years, I was able to use my family name to get ahead and meet people who helped me set up several businesses in my area, a coastal city where this story takes place. The money I used was generally allowances, small inheritance from my late grandma, some investments, a fund that was started when I was a baby, and money gifted to me by my family. Basically, an attempt to not leave me broke enough to embarrass them, even though I'm a simple, low-maintenance fellow. My businesses are booming since the coastal area we live in attracts a lot of tourists, local and international. And of course, some locals who wish to mingle with these tourists to get green cards, pen pals, spouses and such. Typical coastal city, I guess. So then, the incidents. As a proprietor of my businesses, I have most, if not all of my staff on salary, since it's the best way for them to gain benefits and it's easier for me as a business owner tax-wise. Tipping is more of a gift, typically since we do not have a tipping culture here. And I have my staff on comprehensive medical insurance, which has additional dental and optical on top of the national government healthcare medical scheme. Our government hospitals provide all services free, but wait times for elective surgeries are exhausting. We also have a mandatory legal requirement to provide employees with retirement benefit savings. Minimum of 21 working days leave, I give 30, and my businesses offer paid overtime, unhindered medical leave for surgery and serious conditions, which can be extended, as well as allowances to seek treatment such as chemo or dialysis. So, one of my female employees, an older lady who is brilliant and had moved up the ranks to manager and was adored by all, was booked for a hysterectomy since, as she told me, she was at risk of cervical cancer as her mother had passed from it a few years back, and since she'd already had 4 kids, it was the most logical step. She did her due diligence and found a private hospital which was in our system where she could have the procedure done. On the planned date, she applied for leave days, which we obviously rejected since this fell under the scope of medical leave. She went on to have the procedure successfully and had a quick recovery time. The bill was to be catered for by the company insurance, and we'd made sure to get all the necessary pre-authorizations. A few months later, she came to work looking distraught, and in all honesty, we thought that she'd been told she had cancer since she'd asked for a day off to go for review and tests, but what actually happened was much worse. She'd been given a bill by the hospital since the insurance had refused to pay for it, citing that it was not in the scope of cover. We were livid since we'd made sure everything was in effing order. Okay, gotta interject here. Not sure a bill is worth than being told you have cancer, but I get it. It's not something you want to hear. I sent my accounts manager to go and have a talk with the insurance people as we tried to calm her down. The manager came back super angry and told me that basically, after showing them the evidence, the insurance people just told him to buzz off. I decided to personally go and visit that office and get a clear understanding of what was happening. They kept me waiting for an hour, and even after that had the audacity to inform me that the director from the head office, who was in the area, had declined to meet me because he was quote-unquote busy. I was fuming to the high heavens, so I decided to go to their head office in the capital city, a 2-hour flight. The head office was no help and informed me that they'd revised their policy and that it was not covered. I asked when this happened. They informed me a month prior. I informed them the surgery was done 5 months ago and we had all the documentation. They claimed that it was 12 months retrospective. I inquired why I was not informed of this, since this was big news and I have policies with them. And they told me that they'd informed their large clients and would inform their other clients when their insurances were due for renewal. I demanded to speak to their boss, company vice president, since the CEO was not around, and they boldly told me he had no time for me, and frankly that's, in verbatim, "We are a large company and have no time to argue semantics with low-end clients. If you don't like it, you can frankly leave and find a new insurance company." So then, the revenge. If I had been initially angry, now I was full-blown mad. I was livid and filled with rage. In all my years, I may have experienced some disrespect and accepted it, not to make problems. But this time, it went too far. I decided in the heat of the moment to switch everything and be done with them. I flew back home and just plain went to the hospital and settled the bill in full, and took the receipt to my employee, who initially insisted that she'd do anything to pay me back. But I refused, since it was in no way her fault, and I'll be danged if she pays for something that was way out of her control. I had a few days to cool down and talk with my directors. The words still etched on my mind. I asked how long it would take us to switch to another insurer. They went ahead and checked out a few large rivals of the insurance we had, and discovered that if we switched, it would take 6 months for the new insurance to provide full coverage. The firm we picked, who I'll call New Insurance, offered us a way better deal to the one we had. And not only comprehensive cover, dental and optical, they also included mental health cover, physiotherapy, and occupational therapy cover, as well as rehabilitative services, mobility device acquisition, prosthetics and wheelchairs for some of the disabled employees, smart cards for direct payments on outpatient visits, kind of like a debit card, and a dedicated team of relationship managers, death and funeral benefits, and an expanded coverage area, plus up to 6 dependents plus spouse cover. It would cost me a little more, but I didn't really care. The people who dealt with us from our previous insurance, who I'll call Old Insurance, seemed unfazed that I was pulling my company from them, since they thought it was just a small business. They looked puzzled when I came in with several people and a few boxes of documents. What they failed to realize was that apart from that one business, which is a restaurant, I also have 3 popular bars, a cab company, a hotel resort, a cleaning service chain, a building and residential guard service, and several rental buildings in the town and around the country. Their shock was compounded when they were informed by the lawyer just who I am. And the shock, or confusion and panic, when they heard my family name was an extremely satisfying sight. Cue the pleading and attempted negotiations and apologies. It was so big that the news reached their head office, who sent not only their director, the one who was apparently too big to see me, but also their chief legal officer, chief financial officer, and president of the company. I somehow also earned a personalized call from their CEO, who was abroad. No amount of sweet talking was changing my mind, and by the end of 6 weeks, we completely removed ourselves from the old insurance. It was now a waiting game to the beginning of the new insurance cover, and we really hoped that no one would become unwell by that time. But we were ready just in case. In that waiting time, and after the new insurance commenced, I talked to my friends and my family on one of my holiday visits. My older brother's kids adore me, and my family kind of realized they were buttholes to me and are trying to re-enter my life. And I thought that that would be that. But the aftermath. My friends and family took my words and also pulled their businesses from the insurance to other insurances. The company took such a huge hit, and when COVID came around and was a big deal, they were barely floating. They went into receivership soon after and were acquired by the insurance I had moved to, who happened to be their greatest rivals. The directors and CEO were given their golden parachutes and resigned, and most of their employees were luckily retained apart from the senior executives, including the ones who told my manager to buzz off. In a cruel twist of irony, the building they were operating in our town was sold, and if you guessed I purchased it, you'd be absolutely correct. I decided to remodel the inside and turn it into a business rental space. All in all, it was a bit of sweet payback, and wherever they are, I hope those disrespectful guys learn that everyone is human, and they're not above anyone. And remember that karma is a cold and heartless witch. Wow, some truly beautiful revenge there to kickstart today's episode. That is such a fundamental lesson to learn. And look, they learned it very harshly, but at least they learned in the end. It doesn't matter who you're speaking to in business. You have to be respectful of absolutely everyone, because you don't know who someone may be or who they may end up becoming. I gotta be honest, OP, I love how self-aware you are as well. The fact that you know that nepotism has brought you up in life and that you do come from a very successful family, and using your family family name is a massive bonus and has been in your life is one thing, but then reverse engineering that and almost going with reverse nepotism to play yourself off as just a cool, normal customer, but secretly in the back of your mind know how important you are, as well as all your other companies and your friends and family's companies, to just cripple this disrespectful insurance company is beautiful. Disgusting relationship management, and yeah, they earned all that they got. Maintenance guy at Senior Living Center gets revenge on satellite TV companies. Over 200 residents emerge victorious. I am the maintenance director at an independent senior living center. It's pretty much an apartment complex in which you have to be a senior citizen to reside. We provide 3 meals a day, housekeeping, activities, a bus for transportation, and several other amenities to increase the quality of life. Because more times than not, these guys will spend the final years of their life here. Our facility is family owned and orientated. Family members of current employees are encouraged to apply for positions. We have one rule in our employee handbook: ensure resident safety, happiness, and prolongment of life. I take my job very seriously and I take pride in it. I try to go above and beyond to make them all happy. Each resident during the daytime either listens to the radio, plays crossword puzzles, or most of the time watches their favorite TV shows. We do not provide television service. Each resident has to provide it themselves if they choose. Over the last year, there's been a trend of televisions not working in countless units, and when this happens, the residents get very upset. When I get a work order for a TV, I go and check it out. Most of the time, there's nothing I can do. If the cable isn't cut, everything's plugged in, and there are no obstructions to the satellite signal, it's gonna be a software issue. When this happens, I install an air antenna until their regular service is fixed. I call the company and a tech comes out, fixes it, and usually within a couple of hours, it stops working again. This is a never-ending cycle of upset residents. Over the course of an entire year, I spoke with several supervisors and tried to schedule for someone to come out and go through the entire property with me to address each issue. But they weren't having that. They wanted me to go to each individual unit and have that particular resident call them. Almost impossible. That is because a lot of them have trouble hearing and discussing complex matters over the telephone, let alone know the 4-digit code and the answer to the secret question. One resident was out of service for over 60 days, and I demanded that they refund or discount this particular resident properly. They ended up only giving her $21 off, which isn't even half of a single month's payments. When I spoke with this particular representative, I told them that wasn't enough and I would be throwing all of their dishes in the dumpster. This is just the tip of the iceberg. These companies have caused significant property damage to the facility. They've ran the cokes in the gutters and down the downspouts, run cables draped over the sidewalk, which is a tripping hazard, installed dishes in the center of courtyards and wherever is convenient for them. All over the property, cables are strung out on top of the grass for hundreds of feet. They don't bother to bury any of the cables. I've discussed this numerous times with the owner of the facility last year. The last time I spoke with him about it, he gave me the okay to handle the situation and do whatever was needed to be done to fix the issue. My options were limited, and the only feasible option I could concoct was using a landline company that didn't need a satellite dish. Well, I've officially finished running new cokes to every single unit, and a landline company has come in and installed boxes and services in each resident's apartments. Residents who've previously had to pay a monthly fee for their television service now get their service free of charge, and those that never had service now do. We've saved over 50 residents money every month, and all in total, over 200 now have television service that is included in their rents without any increase whatsoever. This was revenge for the representative talking to Miss T in such a negative and rude tone. I believe Miss T is a resident who was only given back just $21 despite having no TV for weeks on end. I could not be happier for my residents. Our senior citizens are some of the most precious things we all enjoy. They hold all of our wisdom. Good day. Now guys, up on screen right now, if you're watching on YouTube, is a video of that wire, just showing how weird it is really, how poorly integrated and designed it is. Look, it's clearly a tripping hazard. It's just right out in the open, very dangerous and very unnecessary. How hard can it be just to bury it? If you can't see it right now, if you're listening to this on podcast platforms, I apologize, but head over to my YouTube channel, link down below, to watch this absolute monstrosity of a wire. And as you can see right here, if you are watching on YouTube, OP has posted a picture of how the cables go into each department. It's such a shoddy job. If you can't see this right now, it's literally just a cable going through the window, not even through a wall, pretty much just through a window into the apartment. It looks so bad, I would almost think this couldn't be real, but it is. So there we go then, 2 examples of companies that have a big clientele just not respecting them enough and eventually losing that business, which, as I say, is clearly very sizable. In that story, it was over 200 customers, and in the first, it was multiple big businesses just because they're not being nice and doing their due diligence. Ultimately, you have to say that it comes down to laziness, really, and these companies thinking they can just get away with doing a bad job. It's very, very poor, and they got their comeuppance. I love to see it. And if you do want to see more from me right away, more revenge stories, I've put a playlist on screen of my very best ones, and the link to that is down in the description as well. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you all tomorrow.